14 of them were internal promotions, which created 14 new vacancies, but it did result in 2 people from other departments who will be adding new capacity to the planning.
Director Goldberg, if I may, can the audience please refrain from having conversations in the chamber? If you do, please take it outside. It's difficult to hear the director, so I ask you for your courtesy and your cooperation.
Thank you. We're working frantically on next year's budget, and we actually are having our first informal budget meeting shortly after I leave here today. I wanted to also let you know that last month the LA Conservancy released its 2008 Los Angeles County Preservation Report Card, and the city of Los Angeles got an A-, only one of 7 cities out of 88 cities to get an A, and we're pleased. We're going to work on going from A- to A+.
Does any funding come with that?
No funding yet, but I think it will, I do believe that it will help position us as we continue to get wonderful grants for historic preservation. I also wanted to mention to you that at the direction of this council and this committee, we will be at the City Planning Commission next week on the 22nd for the first full public hearing on the new citywide sign ordinance. It has been a most aggressive schedule, but we are on track to be there next week to begin the public discussion. I also wanted to mention that our first meeting of the Mixed Income Technical Advisory Committee will occur this Thursday morning at 8 o'clock, so we are beginning to work on that council direction also. Those are the major things that we're working on at the moment. As I indicated, I have a budget meeting that I have to attend when I leave here today, and per the discussion that you and I have had, Chairman Reyes, I will ask my deputy director to sit in my place for the remainder of the meeting to be sort of a resource from planning and to help create, I think, a better connection between planning management and the Plum Committee.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your support, and we welcome our director, and we'll ask him his title and full name as he joins us.
Thank you.
But thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
The Griffith Park item is
Welcome and thank you for joining us in committee. Just introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. I'm Vince Bertoni, and I'm one of the deputy planning directors.
Great. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I do have a card, and I need to ask you, there's a George Grace, a board member, FHRA, but I guess they forgot to put the item number. I want to make sure I don't leave you out. A George Grace, item number 9. Okay. Item number 9 is going to be a big party here. Okay, Councilmember Labange, as I understand, is in the audience. Out of courtesy to the council member, I'd like to ask him if he'd like to make his presentation now. We have a full agenda, so when we get to item number 9, you don't need the clock, unless you really want to insist on it.
I support the designation, Mr. Chair, and I think you'll all support it, I hope. They've worked out matters that are very important. Griffith Park is one of the greatest assets of any city. It's one of the most special spots in California and not the United States as well. And I'm very honored that I go there every day and I make it to Mount Hollywood. When I don't make it to Mount Hollywood, I maybe not be able to make it to City Hall, so come looking for me if you don't see me.
We'll know where to look for you.
I also want to say there's somebody very special here today who came down from Morro Bay, and I'm just trying to spot him right there. Van Griffith, where's Van? Van may have stepped outside, but that is, when you hear his public comments, this is the descendant of Griffith Jenkins Griffith. Please get Van Griffith. Van, come here. Van, come here. I want to make it easy on you, Mr. Chair, when you get to it. All these great people who support the park. This is the descendant of Griffith Jenkins Griffith, grandson. How are you? Say, you got it. I succeed the rest of my time to him.
Okay.
I'd like to thank you all for hearing our nomination of the park here, trying to keep the lungs of the city intact and stop it from being further developed and leave it like it is for the people of the city.
And just for the record, can you give us your name and address?
My name is Griffith Van Griffith. I live in Morro Bay at the moment.
Fantastic.
But his Los Angeles' address is Any Tree in Griffith Park.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay, so we will be hearing a presentation from the staff when we get to item number 9. And what I want to thank Councilmember Labange and Mr. Griffith for being here. And I know these are historic times, and we appreciate the gift that your forefathers have given this great city. So thank you so much. With that being said, let's go to item number 1. And Mr. Clay McCarthy?
McCarter. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Item 1 is a motion by Cardenas Smith Perry instructing the Planning Department, with the assistance of the City Attorney, to prepare a citywide ordinance to prohibit the proliferation of abandoned shopping carts.
Okay, we have a quick report from the staff on this. Okay, there's no report. We're going to refer this to the Planning Department, request coordination with 6 council districts, and we will be requesting that the Bureau of Sanitation to provide the Planning Department with assistance in as much as they have spearheaded an abandoned shopping cart removal pilot program in the 6th council district. So I'll be the director of this committee. Would you like to speak, sir? Please come on forward and give us your name. A representative from Councilmember Cardenas District.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and council members. This is an issue that's been in our district for quite some time as a problem. In January of 2000, we started a pilot program to collect abandoned shopping carts. In a 6-month period, we collected over 5,300 shopping carts just in our district alone. So it's a big problem in our district. Over the last few months, and I would ask that the department be asked to provide you some of this information as we move forward, but we've been working with some of the stores and grocers and different folks that use shopping carts in our district. And one of the things that's became apparent is that the Glendale model is a model that works in Glendale because of their size. It is not, they have maybe 2 Ralphs, or maybe they only have 1 or 2 of the stores. In a city like ours where we have these big chain stores, it's harder to put that kind of model in place. So what we ask is that the department go back and look at putting together some options for the council's consideration. One would be that the count days is what's defined as one of the things in the Glendale is the day that the carts are counted, and that can be any day of the week. It's just the way it's defined, so that in law you can tell that it's a count day. If you on a count day had a violation of more than 5 carts, then you have to take some kind of do some kind of mitigations. So what we are asking is that you go back and look at and say, if a store, any particular store within one of the 7 APCs, so we'll use the North Valley APC since it's the one that would impact our district, or one of the ones that would impact our district. If you're a store within the North Valley APC and you find that you have 5 carts that were abandoned during that time period, then we would ask that you to take on mitigations. On the first violation, we would say that the store, if the carts are not easily identifiable to pertain to a particular store, this is one of the things I think is important, because it would require that all the shopping carts be identified. So, for example, if it's Ralph's number 42, they would have to have it on their cart. Otherwise, it would apply to the entire chain for the 5 carts on the count day. And what we would say is, on the first violation, have the stores come up, or the chain in this case, have them come up with how they're going to fix the problem. Submit a plan to the department, submit a proposal on how they're going to do it, and they have to do it within 10 days of their first violation. On the second violation, we would ask that the department then give them 3 options to pick from. And those options vary. There's cart containment, there's escorting people out to their cars, there's all kinds of options that are out there. Rather than just using the lock wheel mechanisms, it's to provide a variety of different mechanisms that they can use. On the third violation, if there was a third violation, we would ask that the city then impose which one would be the most appropriate to use, so that this is a progressive. As we give these folks an opportunity to clean up their act, to clean up their carts and not have them on our streets, that they have a progressive things. First, they get an opportunity, then they get a choice of a menu, and on the third, we're telling you how to do it. On the fourth, we would then look at imposing fines on a per cart basis. So we ask that the committee take this into account and provide some recommendations on how we might proceed. I think the department's very ample in identifying these mechanisms to contain these carts, and I think it will go a long way in helping with this blight problem in our district. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking the time and the introduction of this ordinance. The next one I'd like to call up is Estela Lopez, and then Electra Kruger, I believe. Estela Lopez?
Tell them that you have informed me of that. Okay.
Council members, good afternoon. The reason I'm here, I speak with some experience on this issue in terms of the Skid Row area and the proliferation of sidewalks, shopping carts on the sidewalks and abandoned shopping carts. So we're firmly in support of this measure. But I want to bring a couple of items to your attention just as this item moves forward for your consideration. First of all, what we've done in the Skid Row area, and it's a little known fact that the business community has done this for several years, is give people the option to do the right thing. Most of the people who steal shopping carts and use them are the homeless and the mentally ill. What the business community, Central City East Association, for several years now has been doing is providing a 20,000-foot warehouse on East 7th Street in Skid Row for people to do the right thing, to store their possessions. This has cut down measurably the number of abandoned shopping carts on the sidewalks. We've been visited by police, prosecutors, homeless organizations, even council staff from throughout the city, asking how that idea can be replicated in their districts. It goes a long way to preventing the very reason people steal shopping carts in the first place. We have been doing that, staffing it, paying for the operations of it, until recently when we did get a grant from LASA, and so now it's a partnership between the Central City East Association and LASA. But if there's if there's unused city property somewhere in your district, somewhere in the city, that would go so far to help people to not have to take shopping carts and still have a safe, secure location to put their possessions. And I'll be happy to be available to discuss that with the planning department at any time. Last and briefly, when shopping carts are abandoned and retrieved, I, for example, don't know what kind of sanitation procedure they go through before they're put back into public use. And I can tell you from experience, there's some pretty nasty things that go in those shopping carts once they're taken out of their normal use. So that might be something to look at as well.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez. Again, I thank you for that insight, that you bring a perspective that I guess for many, unless they are engaging that challenge, that would not even be in their radar. So I appreciate the insight you bring forward and hopefully incorporate that wisdom. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember, before we go on, a member of Council District 2, the deputy, has informed me that all the speakers for item number 6 have withdrawn their cards.
Okay, so very good stewardship there. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Electra Kruger, please come on up. Give us your name and address.
Yes, my name is Electra Kruger. I'm the current president of the Shadow Hills Property Owners Association. And the community of Shadow Hills, like very many others in the city of Los Angeles, do suffer from the blight of abandoned shopping carts along their roadways in their vacant properties. There have been many efforts to deal with this blight. Council District 6 had a relatively successful pilot program that was a call-in retrieval program, and they retrieved about close to 7,000 carts in a 6-month period. There was a new motion successive to this in an attempt to put that citywide. That motion somehow got lost in the shuffle. It's in limbo. It's never been approved or denied. It's just somewhere. Since then 08-2070 came up, and this one actually turns out to be a far better motion in that it is asking for a part of entitlements to be that a store has to provide a design that will not allow the carts to be even leaving the premises in the first place, rather than to do a reactive program of trying to call in and retrieve. So a proactive approach of not having the carts leave the properties in the first place has a far better chance of success. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kruger. So as stated, we will be referring this to the planning department. We made several requests from other departments, and that will be the action of this committee. We'll have a yes on that? Yeah, a nod. Yes, thank you. Okay, item number 2.
Item number 2, Councilman, is a motion by Councilman Smith and Garcetti requesting the CLA in consultation with the Emergency Preparedness Department, Department of Building and Safety, the U.S. Geological Survey, and the Southern California Earthquake Center, and the Building Owners and Managers Association to report back to the Council on concrete, non-ductile construction and non-shear wall parking structures and related matters.
All right, we'll be continuing this item. We do have a card, Mr. McQuiston.
Yes. Jim McQuiston. I put in a statement on this. Naturally, I support this, but I do want to say that there was something missing, namely Caltech. We sure want to get the Caltech people involved in this process. And so I did want to make this right now, so you'll revise that. But I do want you all to read very carefully this statement that I put in. You all have the CD that I gave you some time ago. That CD, I don't think, was the instigator of all the publicity that came out lately. But the TV has had it, and the newspaper has it, and the inane comments by the building and safety people in retort is just something that I think this committee must address, because it's just not a risk factor that we can accept to have this kind of comment. And so I did want you to look at that. We are facing probably a risk factor of in excess of $200 billion. The only way that we can get out of this at all would be to put away $1 billion a year in our budget finance. We can't afford that either. We've got to do something about the way that we approve projects which are unsafe.
Thank you, Mr. Queston. Thank you for taking the time. So this item will be continued to a future meeting. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is a report from the North Valley Area Planning Commission, an ordinance affecting a zone change at the site located at 10741 West Longford Street.
Good afternoon. Maya Zaitsevsky, Planning. On April 17th, 2008, the advisory agency approved parcel map, which permitted a 3-lot subdivision on the site. On May 15th, 2008, the North Valley Area Planning Commission approved a zone change from RA1 to TQRE11-1. On September 23rd, 2008, the Plum Committee heard this case and elected to approve a zone change, or recommend a zone change to RE15 based on some testimony from the council office and neighboring property owners. On October 17th, the City Council referred the item back to Plum. We're here today. What I'd like to explain is the site currently, it's zoned RA1. It's one large lot. If the applicant wanted to subdivide to 2 parcels, which is what he would only be allowed to do with the RE15 zoning that was approved He could do that without having a zone change. Currently, the lot's big enough at RA1 to do 2 lots. We're recommending that the Plum Committee reconsider the recommendation and change it to RE11-1, which is consistent with the surrounding uses and the zoning all around the property. There's no RE15 in the community plan area anywhere near this site. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions from my colleagues for? No? Okay. All right, we do have with us the Isaias Guisar, and I believe is the private property owner of the site. Are you here today? Would like to speak? Come on up. And we have also Dela N. Guisar. Come on up. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
Okay. My name is Evelyn Reyes, and I'll be interpreting for Mr. Isaias Guisar and Delia Guisar.
Okay, so and you also fill out a card, so thank you.
Yes.
Buenas tardes, ¿cómo estamos?
Bien, bien, aquí estamos. Bien, gracias. Buenas tardes a todos los miembros de la Junta.
¿Se puede dar un poco más cerca?
Buenas tardes a todos los miembros de la Junta, a todas las personas que están aquí en el auditorio.
Says good afternoon to everybody here.
Mi nombre es Isaías Guisar, vivo en el 1265 East 87 Place en Los Ángeles.
His name is Isaias Guisar, and his address is 1265 East 87th Place in LA.
Okay, la razón que tengo la desfachatez de estar aquí con ustedes es porque yo para venir aquí no fue una idea mía de pedirles que me hicieran 3 terrenos ahí.
The reason why I'm here, it's not that I started with the plan of dividing the land in 3 parts.
Antes de principiar este proyecto, fuimos al City Planning, que ellos nos sugirieron que hiciéramos 3 lots.
The city is the one that gave us the choice of dividing in 3 parts our land, and I was interested in this.
Y por eso les pido a ustedes que si toman la consideración de aprobarnos este proyecto, porque nos han hecho sufrir emocionalmente y monetariamente bastante.
I ask that you guys have some consideration in supporting the division of the land in 3 parts versus just 2.
Porque nos han hecho batallar.
Yes, they have put a lot of effort and time, and they're exhausted.
Right, they've gone through a lot of grief and a lot of pain in the process, both monetarily and...
lo que nos ha pasado aquí, emocionalmente somos una familia, somos una familia de pequeños ingresos que no tenemos bastante dinero para estar tirándolo de esta manera, ¿no?
This is a family dream, and we don't have enough resources to be wasting time and money for this division in the land.
Entonces, lo que pasa es que, por ejemplo, ya nos hicieron gastar nuestros ahorros.
Okay. They have already spent their savings.
Nuestros planes de retiro.
Their plans to retire.
Entonces, pienso y siento justo que si ustedes toman la decisión ya para seguir adelante y dejar ya de estar
gracias, señor.
dando nuestro dinero.
Gracias por su tiempo. But go ahead.
He feels that he is hopeful that he gets justice today.
Okay. Señora, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Delia M. Guisar. Soy la dueña del terreno de Longford, del mismo que se está hablando ahorita. Mi sueño más grande fue de hacer mi casa ahí porque me gustó mucho el terreno para mí y mis hijas, pero
my dream has been to build my home there at the lot in Longford.
Pero se ha visto muy difícil esto porque hace 3 años comenzamos y no he visto el final.
We haven't seen the end of it, and it started in 3 years already.
Y espero que se nos haga justicia hoy y se siga el proyecto adelante como debe de ser.
I hope for justice today and to keep on planning our dream home.
Es la mamá y el hijo, ¿verdad? ¿Es familia?
¿Quién ella?
Él.
Es mi sobrina.
Ellos son esposos y yo soy la sobrina.
Ah, ok. Muy bien. Gracias.
Sobrina, ajá.
Okay.
Entonces, pues espero eso y es la razón que yo estoy aquí. Ya vine en una ocasión con una semana de cirugía, haciendo sacrificio para terminar esto y pues a última hora se nos cancelaron 2 citas seguidas.
Okay.
We hope to find a resolution. The last week that I came after surgery, and I hope this is the last time.
Okay.
Eso es todo por hoy.
Thank you.
Gracias. Gracias por venir y dispensa por todo lo que ha ocurrido, pero ojalá podamos trabajar juntos y ver cómo seguir adelante.
Gracias.
Gracias. Okay, our next speaker is what's happened? Kristen Sabo. And I believe it's Wayne Takuda. I apologize if I pronounced your name correctly. And Fritz Bronner. Kristen
I'm
Sabo.
going to give my time to Fritz Bronner. We're both board members of Foothill Trails District Neighborhood Council.
I'm giving you your 2 minutes and his 2 minutes, and that's it. So do you like to speak? Otherwise, we'll forgo. And he'll be given only 2 minutes. Only 2 minutes each.
Okay, so I cannot defer my time, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
All right, my name's Kristen Sabo. I'm a board member of the Foothill Trails District Neighborhood Council. Our neighborhood council is on record. I believe the letters have been brought to you regarding our community plan and the importance of the kind of lifestyle that's in the neighborhood. This isn't a matter of NIMBYism so much as it's a matter of people who have homes in the area that have devoted all of their income and time to having properties that keep horses. And the reallocation of this land to RE11 is basically in violation of the community plan. And so we're very disappointed that this has been reviewed and you're trying to turn it back around. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Doesn't want to stay there. Good afternoon. My name is Fritz Bronner, and I'm a board member of the Foothill Trails District Neighborhood Council. And we also reviewed this application back in February 2008. And our board and our land use committee voted unanimously in support of having this proposal converted to RE15 because it was part of the guidelines and rules as far as options. We also felt that it gave the city a legal path of standing too. There is a great cultural heritage of horse keeping, and we need to find measures and ways of preserving this in the community. As was said earlier by Chris Sabo, many people have moved in this community, whether it's horse keeping property or not, because of the open space, the agricultural keeping. Horses do actually walk on those trails nearby at the Adelphi School, which is a multi-use trail, and go to other horse-keeping houses within that community that are nestled. It's a serpentine patchwork. We were hoping that the Plum would see an opportunity to preserve this. In general, we need to find ways of finding solutions in the wording as far as horse keeping. There are many RA1 properties that are in dire consequence if we don't, they're allowed to have horses, and if we don't somehow give them K overlays and preserve them, then it's going to be the whims to developers to change it. And this is an important decision right here, and this is an important precedent. We really urge you to consider keeping this within the guidelines of RE15, as well as consider to find solutions to keep this. And frankly, we're talking about historic designation on other properties, but I believe also horse keeping should be considered a historic designation. This is the city of Tom Mix, Gene Autry, Roy Rogers. They're revered, but what are we leaping into the 21st century to preserve that legacy and to preserve this horse keeping industry? We're a $900 million industry in the city of Los Angeles. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Our speaker, Wayne, I believe it's Fukuda. I apologize, it's hard to read the lettering. Just give us your name and address.
It is Fukuda.
Fukuda,
Yeah.
okay.
My name is Wayne Fukuda. I'm at 14661 Myford Road in Tustin, California. I'm the architect on this project. I represent the Arcasans Design Group. We represent Isaias and Dalia Guizar, who spoke to you just earlier. I wanted to, first of all, to tell you that there are a number of items that we did submit prior to the actual hearing. One is a petition from the abutting and adjoining neighbors supporting our project. I wanted to let you know, too, that this particular neighborhood is actually composed of two different types of housing. One is the horsekeeping type of housing, the equine K overlay. And if you you find out and go a little bit deeper into the actual composition of this neighborhood, you'll find there's also serpentine through this area. Residential single-family residences that do not have horsekeeping and who are actually interested in maintaining residences without that component to it. I wanted to show you there's a map here that I got from the zoning department. If you'll notice in this area, there's the green, which is our property here, is situated actually in the yellow, which is actually the residential component. You will find that all the properties around that, none of them are RE15. And only, I think there are some that are RA, which we could have done without even doing the zone change. But the RE11 is purely residential. The K overlay is the green areas that you see, and if you notice, they are not in the same green areas as our property here. It is an RE11 totally around it, and there are no RE15s for what we have estimated at about 5 miles in any direction. And in some instances, the direction goes to the mountain areas where it's just wilderness areas.
Like to summarize, please?
Okay. Wanted to ask that the committee support the recommendation from the local area advisory council, and that it should be an RE11, not an RE15, and that does respond to the wishes of the people who live in that particular area, including my clients. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, our last speaker is Dale Thresh.
Good afternoon, Chairman Reyes, members of the committee.
My
name is Dale Thrush. I'm Planning Deputy for Councilmember Wendy Gruhl. When this matter was before you a few months ago for the first time, the Council Office supported the Equestrian Community's request for a zone change to RE15 as opposed to the RE11 that was requested by the applicant. We did that because it is part of a pattern of Councilwoman Gruhl's administration that she has supported equestrian lifestyle throughout her district. We felt that the RE15 zone change was appropriate because of the general equestrian nature of that community, the availability of trails in the area, and the strong support for the equestrian lifestyle that can be found in numerous places in the community plan. At the time of the initial hearing, this committee did not have the benefit of the input from the applicant. Apparently the applicant was unaware of this hearing. And also, planning staff most familiar with the case was not here. And so you didn't really get the full benefit of those 2 points of view. The applicant protested the recommendation of the committee at council when the matter came to council. The council referred the matter back to this committee with the support of Councilwoman Gruhl. And so what we have now is a situation where you've had fuller input than you had before. We've had more detailed input from planning staff, and between the two meetings, I had occasion to meet with both the planning department and the city attorney and ask them to weigh in on the appropriateness of the RE15 versus RE11 zone change. Each of the departments was concerned about making the findings necessary for an RE15 zone change. They felt that there were some real concerns there. And the city attorney, I believe, in particular, was concerned about the defensibility of any lawsuit that might come from this case. We are for that reason, we are deferring to staff, recommending that you adopt the staff's recommendation. And on a positive note, Mr. Bronner was mentioning the need to further protect the equestrian community in Lakeview Terrace. There is a community plan update underway at this time on that local plan, and we now have significant opportunities to make the kinds of changes to the plan that might have avoided this situation here. But as I said, at this point, we are recommending the staff position.
Yeah, and I believe the tragedy here is that the applicants were following direction from city personnel at the outset to subdivide, but that's all in the past now. I'd like to ask our planning personnel to come forward. I thank you, Mr. Thrush, for that. A statement was made by one of the speakers that this is a reallocation of a zoning. Is that accurate? Can you respond to that?
Which speaker said that?
I believe it was right before Mr. Bonner. Christine Saba, I believe, had mentioned that this was a reallocation of zoning.
The land use designation permits two zones, RE11 and RE15. However, when we're looking at zone changes and an applicant is applying for a zone change that is consistent with the more permissive zone, then that's something that we would recommend approval for. They have enough lot area for 3 lots, and actually the 3 lots, out of them, I think 1 or 2 would be even larger than the 11,000 square foot requirement. So it wouldn't make sense for us to make a recommendation to RE15, especially when it's not when none of the surrounding lots have been zoned RE15. They're all zoned RE11.
So following the commission's recommendation would be consistent with what the city attorney is advising and you, as well as your staff?
Correct.
Okay. So that would be the directive. Any comments from my colleagues on this? It would be a directive that we follow the commission's recommendation, and it would be an RE11.
Correct.
For this particular site.
Thank you.
Okay. That concludes that item. Next item.
Item number 7 is a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission relative to the inclusion of the North Vermont Avenue Moreton Bay fig trees located at North Vermont Avenue between Los Feliz Boulevard and Aberdeen Avenue in the list of historic cultural monuments.
Okay, now let me make sure. We just finished item number 3?
Correct.
And item number 4, do we have any cards there?
No, I believe, Councilmember, you said 4 and 5 are consent.
Okay.
And item number 6, I believe the cards were withdrawn, so that
Takes us
one's
to
consent.
7.
Those
And number 7, I believe the cards were withdrawn, so it would be up to you if you want to hear staff's report.
Great. See? Right on. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, Ken Bernstein with the Office of Historic Resources. This is the Historic Cultural Monument application for the North Vermont Avenue Moreton Bay fig trees located in the Los Feliz area. These are 39 fig trees that were planted in 1913 and line North Vermont Avenue between Los Feliz Boulevard and Aberdeen Avenue. The Cultural Heritage Commission recommendation is that the trees met 2 of the Cultural Heritage Ordinance criteria. First, that they are associated with a master designer, the work of landscape architect Wilbur Cook, and second, that the streetscape feature reflects the broad cultural, economic, and social history of the community for its association with the development of the Vermont Canyon area of Los Angeles.
Okay, I wanted to just remind the folks who have signed up for cards that this is on a consent calendar, but I wanted to ask if you feel compelled to speak, come on up. We'll give you a minute, but you're way ahead of the game right now, but go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno. For the proposed inclusion. Also, we are concerned about the age of the trees and their eventual replacement. So I would recommend that there be a replacement plan made for these trees so that the young trees can be started maybe now. Thank you.
Okay. Next speaker on this? Anyone else would like to speak? All right. Because we do have a, let's see, a Kenneth Owen for number 7. I'm just calling out your name to make sure you wrote on the right card, but this is number 7, right?
Yes,
Okay.
Kenneth Owen. I'm chair of the Planning Committee of the Greater Griffith Park Neighborhood Council. I just wish to express our wholehearted support for this application.
Great, thank you, sir. Thank you for coming to City Hall. And that, I believe, concludes item number 7, and that's a consent item, so we'll move that forward. Is someone else? Did I miss somebody on item number 7? Come on up. You made the trip down here, you paid for
Hi.
parking, so you might as well
Yep,
speak.
Tom Ford, North Vermont Avenue, and the trees, the historic trees. Also, there has been a fund started for replacement and care of the trees. So, just wanted you to know that.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so that takes care of number 7.
Item number 8 is a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission relative to the inclusion of the Herman Estate located at 525 South Van Ness Avenue in the list of historic cultural monuments.
Yes, again, Ken Bernstein with the Office of Historic Resources. This is the Historic Cultural Monument nomination for the Herman Estate that was built in 1908 and altered between 1919 and 1942. The architects of the 1919 remodel of the estate were Albert Walker and Percy Eisen, who were prominent California architects, also responsible for the Fine Arts Building, the Taft Building at Hollywood and Vine, and the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. The Cultural Heritage Commission recommendation is that the nomination met 2 of the Cultural Heritage Ordinance criteria. First, that the building embodies the distinguishing characteristics of an architectural type, as an example of colonial revival style residential architecture, and secondly, that it was associated with a master architect, the works of architect Albert Walker and Percy Eisen of Walker and Eisen. Commission's recommendation is for approval. Thank you.
Now, is there anyone,
They haven't heard it yet.
is there anyone that was against this nomination that you're aware of?
At the Cultural Heritage Commission, there was a property owner who showed up to the hearing after the conclusion of the hearing, and there was obviously not an opportunity to hear him. We indicated he would have an opportunity to speak at Plum Committee and Council. I don't know whether the gentleman is here today.
Okay. Because the cards so far that I've indicated here are all for this, and this is on a consent. We have a Frank Badami, a Charles Fisher, Thomas Ford, and a Marion Dodge. Do you all like to speak? Because this is on a consent calendar. Like to come on up? Okay. Smart man there. He's been to Plum Committee before. So that would be on the consent calendar, and that would be a yes. So thank you very much, and that concludes item number 8.
We get to number 9.
Item number 9 is a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission relative to the inclusion of Griffith Park, located at 4730 Crystal Springs Drive and Riverside Drive, Vermont Avenue, and Zoo Drive in the list of historic cultural monuments.
Okay.
Okay, again, Ken Bernstein with the Office of Historic Resources. My report is a little bit more detailed for this monument nomination. This is one of the lengthiest and most complex historic cultural monument applications the Office of Historic Resources and Cultural Heritage Commission have received. Of course, Griffith Park was established in 1896 and is one of the largest urban parks in the nation. Because of the size and complexity and diversity of the proposed area, the application, which is about 350 pages, identified more than 30 separate key features of the park as so-called historically sensitive resources and areas that serve as contributing elements or character-defining features of the proposed monument. 6 of these are already designated as city historic cultural monuments. The staff's recommendation and the Cultural Heritage Commission's action is to recommend to the council that the council declare Griffith Park as a historic cultural monument, and that it successfully meets 4 of the historic cultural monument criteria. First, as it embodies distinguishing characteristics of an architectural type, Griffith Park contains numerous buildings and structures representing several architectural styles, as well as infrastructure elements in a so-called park style. Second, that Griffith Park reflects the broad cultural, economic, or social history of the city, for its association with the growth and development of the city of Los Angeles into a major metropolitan area. Third, that it is associated with important historic personages, from J. Griffith himself to Jose Vicente Feliz, and even Walt Disney, who donated buildings and structures to Griffith Park and was inspired by the park and its merry-go-round to build Disneyland. And fourth, the Griffith Park is associated with important events in the currents of our local history for the original donation of the parkland by Griffith J. Griffith in 1896. The Office of Historic Resources and the Cultural Heritage Commission had concluded that certain areas of the property were not character-defining features, did not have historic significance, or were to be considered contributing elements of the monument, and that they would be excluded from Cultural Heritage Commission review. Those included the freeways and its associated ramps, the Toyon landfill, the Los Angeles Zoo, Autry National Center, the Roosevelt Municipal Golf Course from 1966, and the Marty Tregnan Golf Academy. It should be noted that Griffith Park is already has historic status and is flagged in the city's ZEMIS geographic information system because many elements of the park have previously been determined eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. We are happy to address you further about questions regarding the management and operation issues surrounding Griffith Park and issues that have been raised by city departments. We want to emphasize to all city departments and to advocates on this issue that the historic designation will not freeze Griffith Park at a point in time, and that considerable changes and new uses may still be allowed within historic preservation standards. We have also determined, the Cultural Heritage Commission determined, that infrastructure elements of the park, with the exception of the designed park-style components that were noted in the nomination, are not character-defining features of the historic monument. That includes utilities, subsurface utilities, sewer lines, storm drains, electrical equipment, and so forth, and staff would not be reviewing changes to those elements. And in the cases of emergency, the Cultural Heritage Ordinance exempts work on historic cultural monuments that are necessary for immediate public health, safety, or general welfare. In addition, the fact that character-defining features, the natural features of the park were identified as significant does not mean that no changes can be made to plant species, trees, wildlife habitat, and so forth. In conclusion, the staff of the Office of Historic Resources has continued to meet with city departments regarding the potential impact of historic cultural monument designation on management and operational facilities. In discussions with Recreation and Parks and other departments, we have discussed the possibility of moving forward immediately with the historic designation through committee and council in 2 weeks, but providing for a small delay in full implementation of its monument status and full review of proposed projects for up to a 6-month period to allow for further discussions to continue with other city departments about some of these management and operational issues, and our office would be supportive of such a request. But again, the Cultural Heritage Commission recommendation is to declare Griffith Park a historic cultural monument.
Okay, thank you for that report. We do have a substantial number of cards that are in support of the designation. And a few cards will either have general comments or have not indicated one way or the other what the position is. So, given the large size of a high number of cards that we have here, well, let's go to 2 minutes and then see how we go. It's going to be a long day. So we'll start off with Heinrich Kiefer. And then we'll go to Bill Dilvac. And then we'll go to Nicole Possert.
Yes, thank you, members of the committee. My name is Heinrich Kiefer. I reside at 530 North Avenue 53. I don't believe there's going to be much opposition to this, so I'm just here to say I support the designation. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. I hope you set the precedent. Okay. Bill Dilvac.
Honorable committee members, William Delvac of Latham & Watkins on behalf of the Autry National Center, which is located in Griffith Park on a site identified as non-contributing. As you may know, the Autry has had a proposed expansion project in the city approval process for approximately 2 years now. In discussions with the nominator and the Office of Historic Resources, we've submitted a request for, in effect, a transitional rule for projects already in the approval process located on non-contributing sites, that so long as those projects go forward in conformance with the applications, that they would be exempted from review. In the absence of such a rule, a project like the Autry's would be subjected to additional review, and it's our understanding from the Office of Historic Resources that they are not concerned with this project in particular. I believe there'll be a number of interested parties in favor of this, so we've submitted requested language, and we urge your consideration.
Just repeat, what is the request in very straight terms?
The request is that any project located, and you have it in front of you in writing, any project located on a non-contributing site shall be exempt from review or approval under the Cultural Heritage Ordinance, including the Autry, to the extent such project is in substantial conformance with the height and massing in the application. It's just a transition rule for projects in the works.
Thank you. Okay, well, yeah, let's just go through the process. We want to do that at the end. Okay, Nicole Bussert. Then we have Lynn Brown.
Good afternoon. Nicole Possert, representing the Highland Park Heritage Trust, and we're in support of the full nomination. Thank you.
Okay. Lynn Brown.
You caught me off guard. I am Lynn Brown. I am the National Trail Coordinator for Equestrian Trails Incorporated, and I also sat on as one of the members of the Master Plan Working Group. I'm here to wholeheartedly throw the equestrian support behind the designation for Griffith Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Cornell Bajwani, Martin Adams, and Marion Dodge. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Komal Bojwani. I'm here just as a person who enjoys Griffith Park almost every day as a hiker and equestrian, and I'm here to support the full designation, the designation of the entire Griffith Park as a historical and cultural monument. Thank you.
Okay. Martin Adams, Marion Dodge, and Mike Bueller.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Martin Adams from Department of Water and Power, representing the water system. We have one minor clarification that we're seeking, and the Council for the Griffith Trust has written some language that she will be proposing. We have a major water quality improvement project to take place at the Headworks Spreading Grounds, which is across the street from Mount Sinai and Forest Lawn. It is part of Griffith Park. It was originally Water and Power property that was deeded to Rec and Parks in 1926. There is a certified EIR already in place, and the project's in design, and so we're seeking to have the current project as defined in the EIR not subject to review at this time. And so there will be language submitted asking for that approval.
Okay, is the staff aware of this request? So you guys worked it out?
Yes, we're satisfied.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Marion Dodge and Mike Bueller, please.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Marion Dodge, president of the Los Feliz Improvement Association, representing 1,000 households. We are Griffith Park's next door neighbor, and we enthusiastically support its designation as a landmark. Griffith Park is unique in that it qualifies for landmark designation in all 4 categories. It actually qualifies multiple times in each category, making it without doubt the most historic of all city parks in the United States. Griffith Park is not the first city park to be nominated a landmark. Indeed, 8 parks already have landmark designation. A landmark designation imposes no additional administrative costs, nor does it mandate any maintenance. Rec and Parks has been successfully maintaining landmark parks for 45 years. I'm confident that they will continue to maintain these parks in an appropriate manner. Griffith Park is one of the city's greatest assets. One example is for the Hollywood film industry, where the park is a versatile set. Hundreds of films have been shot in Griffith Park. The park has played everything from a Korean battlefield to an English countryside, and it even occasionally gets to play itself. If the city built some of the projects recently proposed for the park, it would interrupt the existing wilderness and force Hollywood to seek other locations. This would cause a significant loss of revenue and jobs in the city and worsen the economic downturn throughout the state. Landmark designation would establish a review process to evaluate the impact of proposed changes and stop projects that would be detrimental to the park. We urge you to recommend Historic Cultural Monument designation for all of Griffith Park. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, John Gray.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Mike Bueller on behalf of the Los Angeles Conservancy. The Conservancy would just like to reiterate its strong support for the nomination, and we're pleased that the parties are coming together and resolving the outstanding issues with regard to the nomination, and we urge you to adopt the Cultural Heritage Commission's recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. John Gray, then Joseph Young.
Council members, my name is John Gray, President of the Autry National Center of the American West, and I'm here today to express our strong support for the designation of Griffith Park as a historic cultural monument in Los Angeles. The Autry is very proud of its connection to the beautiful and historic Griffith Park, and we share the community and our personal concern about the park's future, and we want to ensure that it not only is preserved but enhanced for all the citizens of Los Angeles. The Autry's plans for Griffith Park facility is to celebrate our location within the park and honor the natural beauty of the landscape. As part of the proposed cultural monument designation, it's important to note that certain areas of Griffith Park have been identified as non-contributing elements. They do not contribute to the historic significance of Griffith Park. The Autry is located in one of these non-contributing areas, and you've already heard about that. As part of the approval process for our project, the city has already conducted an extensive review of any impacts, including potential impacts on the park and its historic and cultural significance. Therefore, the Autry, along with the Griffith Park Trust, supports adding language to the designation to ensure that there will be no additional approvals required under the Cultural Heritage Ordinance for the Autry's proposed project. This clarification provides a win-win for the people of Los Angeles. The new design for the Autry's expansion is inspired by the landscape of the West, and in particular is landscape to reflect its location within Griffith Park. We plan to have a museum in a park, not a museum in a parking lot. We've received wonderful support from our members, our guests, all of our neighbors, and we look forward to creating a very new destination within the park. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Carol Henning, and then we'll have Ann Walnum, and then Nancy Wyatt. Is Carol Henning here? Hi.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Joseph Young. I'm with the Angeles chapter of the Sierra Club, and I'm here to tell you that we enthusiastically and wholeheartedly support this designation of the entirety of Griffith Park to be a cultural historical monument. And I want to reiterate that that includes the magnificent, green, wonderful interior of the park. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Carol Henning, then Ann Walnum, and then we'll have Nancy Wyatt.
Okay, my name is Carol Henning. I live in Hancock Park. I'm a Sierra Club hike leader. Griffith Park is the largest urban wilderness park in the United States, and it is replete with biological, historic, and cultural treasures. These treasures need to be protected and preserved. There has always been a temptation to commercialize Griffith Park. In this troubled economy, the temptation is even stronger. Let us resist this temptation. Griffith Park was the largest private land gift LA has ever received. Let us honor this gift and the wishes of the Griffith family to have it designated a historic cultural monument. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Ann Walnum, 755 Crane Boulevard, Mount Washington. I am here as a member of the Central Group of the Sierra Club. We support the nomination. Most of us attended the previous meeting of the Cultural Heritage Commission, We heard the discussion about the inclusion of the entire park in the vote that day. Now I'm hearing some concern about changing what the Cultural Heritage Commission did vote on. I'm asking you, do not allow the history of Griffith Park to be distorted or any parts to be separated from the whole. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm
Good
Nancy
afternoon.
Wyatt from Highland Park. I'm a resident of Highland Park. I'm a former land use chair for the neighborhood council. I'm here to support this motion as well. I just feel it's very important to keep the flavor of Griffith Park and not to let it become heavily trafficked or very busy. We want a peaceful place that we can go and enjoy for the purposes that were established by the Griffith family. And I'm happy to know that the Griffith family is here today to support this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria Dueñas and George Graves.
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here. I am here today in front of this committee to make a statement in favor of the inclusion of the Griffith Park in the list of historic cultural monuments. And I am here as a member of the community to tell you that the impact that this park has in the community is unmeasurable. For 25 years, I've been fortunate to live there. And what you have heard before is not what you're going to hear from me. I'm going to tell you what it does to people, the lives of people with less, people that have no parks, no yards in back of their apartments, people that come to celebrate their quinceañeras, their weddings, their birthdays. Celebrating of life is what I experience. And every day I see the monument of Colonel Griffith, I thank him. And he's my hero, and his family is here today to ask you to respect his wishes, to leave this land clear of development for the enjoyment of people, the city of Los Angeles. I invite you to come and see this. You're welcome to come and experience the beautiful wonders of Griffith Park. Thank you, and please do the right thing.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm George Grace. I'm a resident of the Franklin Hills. I sent to each of you this list of supporters for the historic cultural monument status, 427 so far and counting. I expect, since I did this on the 10th, in fact, we've had about 20 additional people to give their comments in support of this designation, and I urge you to do the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you. We still have quite a ways to go on the speaker cards. I've been told I might lose a quorum, but all the cards indicate support for the designation. Can I ask folks who submitted a card in support to please stand up? Okay. Well, thank you so much for making the trip and coming here. What I'd like to do is ask, well, why don't you go ahead and speak?
Thank you very much, Councilmember Reyes and members of the Plum Committee. My name is Jan Chatton-Brown. I'm counsel for the J. Griffith Charitable Trust, and I did just want to confirm that we worked out we addressed the concerns of both the Autry Museum, Department of Water and Power, and Park and Recreation Department. And I have the language that I would like to suggest, and I'm going to read that, assuming I can locate it here. For the Department of Water and Power, we propose, and I'll provide copies of this to you, the Department of Water and Power Commissioners has certified a final EIR for the Headworks Reservoir Project located at the Headworks Spreading Ground section of Griffith Park. That project, as described in the EIR, shall be exempt from review or approval under the Cultural Heritage Ordinance. This would be just the same as we agreed to with the Autry Museum, because they are pending applications for which final environmental review has already been conducted, and it doesn't make sense to go back and ask them to go through this review process. In addition to that, there has been considerable concern expressed by the Park and Recreation Department. Many of the resources of the park were mapped using GIS, but they are concerned what their maintenance personnel might, the lack of guidance to the maintenance personnel. And Ken Bernstein has discussed this at length with them. Both Mr. Bernstein, the Park and Recreation Department, and the Griffith Trust agree that it is reasonable to provide a grace period during which time additional information could be developed that would aid the maintenance staff in properly treating resources within the monument. And we have agreed to the following language, which I don't have typed up yet, since we just agreed to it, but I can read it in the record and then provide to you in hard copy. There shall be a 6-month grace period for recreation and park maintenance projects in order to better define the historical, cultural defining features of the monument using graphic information systems and global positioning systems to better map and define the sites. And I have been assured that the Sierra Club and others stand ready to help in providing that information to make it usable for the Rec and Parks Department.
Okay, so I want to make sure this is clear for the record what we're doing. So you are coming forth and giving us language that addresses concerns that are raised by different parties as a result of this application.
Correct.
Okay. And I want to make sure that the council staff and the city staff is aware of this assertion.
Yes, again, Ken Bernstein on behalf of the Office of Historic Resources. Our office is supportive of the language that's been presented, recognizing that what is before the committee and the council is the historic designation and essentially an up or down vote on its eligibility under the Cultural Heritage Ordinance. What we're discussing are some potential directions you could give in your committee report, in your legislative record, essentially, giving further direction on the implementation of the designation once it's approved.
Okay, I'd like to hear from the council office if they're represented here. You're supporting as well. So the directive would include what we have already on the record, and as well as what's just been mentioned by Jan Shannon Brown, correct?
Correct. There's the language that was presented on behalf of the Autry relating to exemption of their project, or non-contributing project that already is into the environmental review process, in addition to language presented by Ms. Chatton Brown on behalf of discussions we've had with Department of Water and Power, their staff, and the fact that their commission has certified a final EIR, and the idea of a potential grace period prior to full implementation and review of projects throughout the park that may affect city departments.
Okay. So any of my colleagues have any questions regarding this? No? Okay, so I want to thank you for that, and we could have been here probably 2 more hours, but this brings us to closure. I want to make sure that everyone that submitted a card, that your cards will be in for the record. I do want to make sure I continue with other items on the agenda. I don't want to lose quorum. So what I'd like to do is move forward on this action. And
But I thought you already gave it to me.
okay.
Okay.
So on item number 9, we'll move with the recommendations of the staff, and that we will include the language that was just defined by the amendment and had been agreed upon by both the city staff and the council office, and that will be the action of this committee. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, next item.
Item 10 is a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission. relative to the inclusion of the Herman Car Wall located at the 400 block of Pullman Avenue in the list of historic cultural monuments. And there is a correction on this item. The applicant,
Why don't you just hold on for a second and we'll let everybody leave?
is the Arroyo Seco Neighborhood Council. So we're changing park to Seco.
Okay, number 10 is a
Okay.
consent item, correct?
Yeah, from what I understand, the cards were withdrawn on this item also.
It was?
So correction is just to the name of the applicant, from Park to Seco.
Okay, so that's a consent?
And item 11 is consent as well.
Item 11 is consent. They were on a roll. Anything else?
Item 13.
Okay, let's go there.
We did have item number 11. Item 11 had an amendment. According to Council District 10, they did change it? Okay. Okay. According to Planning Department, I'm just receiving information, they withdrew their amendments.
Okay.
Council District 10
So-
did withdraw their amendments.
So we can move on to consent.
Number 10 and number 11. And number 11.
Okay, just for the record, we'll make sure that's clear. 10 and 11 are on consent.
Okay.
So what's next?
The final item is item 13. It's an appeal from part of the designation of the advisory agency in approving a 2-parcel subdivision with a maximum 4-unit condominium at 2116 South Federal Avenue.
Let me, I do see item 11, do have a card. I just want to make sure you're aware that was on consent. Are you okay, Ms. Postert, because you do have a card submitted? Okay, I want to make sure I acknowledge the fact that you put a card in there. All right, so go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So item 13 is an appeal regarding a 2-parcel subdivision at 2116 South Federal Avenue.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Maya Zaitsevsky. Excuse me. As the Deputy Advisory Agency on this case, I approved the parcel map for a 2-lot, 4-unit subdivision in the R2 zone. At my public hearing, there was some controversy, and we received a lot of letters prior to the hearing regarding the size of the building. It's in the R2-1 zone. The R2-1 zone permits a 45-foot height limit and no limit on the number of stories. The project is proposing to be 33 feet in height and 3 stories. I approved the project because all the subdivision map act findings could be made, and we really have no hook when it comes to height. We have no input into the design of the structure. It was then appealed by a neighbor of the building, and it went to West LA APC. There was a failure to act. One commissioner motioned for a denial of the appeal. It was not seconded. One motion for a granting of the appeal. It was not seconded. So it was a failure to act. It's the same my decision as the advisory agency. What you're here for today, why it's to you, is it was Section 245. There's only one level of appeal with parcel maps. So Council District 11, Section 245 did. So I'll let them speak on why they did that.
Okay. There's the council office here please come on up, give us your name.
Grieg Asher for Councilman Rosendahl. And the councilman was hoping to come down and talk personally about this, but he's in the middle of some meetings on Lincoln Place, so he asked me to read his statement. And I'll provide a copy. Colleagues, the Westside Residents Association has appealed the decision of the Area Planning Commission to support a parcel map for a 4-plex condominium project in the West LA Neighborhood Council area on Federal Boulevard. I'm here today to speak in support of their appeal. The main issue is height, and although the difference may seem trivial to outsiders, the neighbors have drawn a line in the sand and are saying enough is enough. The history of this case goes back many years when a level of density and height was forced upon an unwilling neighborhood. After I was elected, the neighbors gave me a tour of the area and showed me how the area was being overrun by new and oversized developments. They asked me to stop this from happening anymore. This is a neighborhood of small 1- and 2-story homes and apartments, but was forced to have a height district of up to 45 feet. Although many blocks have these oversized buildings, some of the other blocks are still pristine. The case today is on a block that doesn't have any tall buildings, and I support the neighbors' efforts to preserve this block. I have asked the Planning Department to lower the allowable height to 30 feet in the upcoming community plan update now underway, but that will take another year to 18 months. The action the neighbors are asking you to take today is to preserve these blocks until the new community plan is adopted. Although the zoning code allows a maximum of 45 feet in height, new developments must meet other requirements as well, including complying with the applicable plans and community plan. The community plan is filled with language about preserving existing neighborhood character. For instance, Chapter 3 says that the first premise of the plan is to limit residential densities and height to the prevailing density and height of development in these neighborhoods. I interpret this to mean that you can build up to 45 feet, provided that you fit the neighborhood fabric of the neighborhood. It's not just an automatic right each time that you can build to 45 feet. Each case is unique and must be evaluated on the individual circumstances. The Area Planning Commission recently confirmed this approach when they turned down a similar project as too tall to comply with the community plan. It's on the same block. I urge you to support the Westside residents' appeal and adopt a finding that the proposed map is inconsistent with the applicable community plan, and to amend the conditions of approval to limit the height of this development to 30 feet. Thank you, and I've
Thank you. Okay. I'd like to ask the staff to come on up on this.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the council office is asking for this exemption, correct? What can you just
They're
tell us?
asking you, my understanding is they're asking you to grant the appeal in that you would be conditioning the height to a 30-foot height limit.
Now, there's a reference to another property that's where they've done a similar action. Did we already set a precedent here in this area?
Well, there was a property, 2 lots to the south, where it went on appeal. I think at the meeting after mine, when mine went to West LA, APC, we wanted to hear them on the same day, but it didn't get to go the same day. And more people came and testified. I'm not sure if the councilman was there, but they did have a decision at that meeting, and it was to, I believe, the decision hasn't been finalized, but I believe it was to restrict the height. But I don't believe that's the correct decision. When he's referring to the parcel map findings that have to do with the design and improvement of the property and being in conformance with the community plan, the MAP Act findings, when they're talking about design of the subdivision, they're not talking about the design of the property, the building, the improvements on it. They're talking about the roadway widths, the sidewalks, the driveway, any easements around the property. As parcel maps, we have no authority over the design, the height. If it complies with the zoning, they're not asking for a variance, we don't have the authority to restrict it.
Okay. So, a similar action, but for different reasons.
No, I think it's on the same block. It was the same person who is appealing. It's the same exact story, but the West LAPC did something, made an action that I don't agree with.
Okay. We do have Thomas Donovan here, the only card on this item. Come on up, sir. And your name is? Okay. You'll be up next.
Thank you. My name's Thomas Donovan. I am wearing several hats here for the neighborhood who couldn't all come down here during the day. I am on the West LA Community Neighborhood Council. I'm the chair of their Plum Committee, which mirrors your Plum Committee. I'm also the vice president of the Westside Residents Association, which has made the appeal. And I also live on the block and represent the people on the block. We have 2 projects here. This is how we got here. One project, 2116 Federal, had 2 structures, both 3 stories, 33 feet in height. Just 1 door down, 2 doors down, we have another project, 2108 Federal. And that one is 1 structure, but the same thing, 3 stories, 33 feet in height. The 2116, the one before today, was expedited. That's how it got in line first. So finally, the Deputy Advisory Agency approved both of them. Interestingly, the Deputy Advisory Agency didn't even know that these 2 projects were on the same block. They had separate hearing examiners. They had separate planners on this. The system is a little faulty in that respect. There was a hearing on November 19 before the Area Planning Commission, and we had lots of neighbors, we had letters, we had everybody in there. And what happened is that the commissioners looked at the property and and looked at the neighborhood and realized this was not within the character and scope of the neighborhood, and therefore violative of the community plan. So, but they were confused because the community plan said one thing, they looked at the pictures, they could see what's there, but then they're looking at zoning and they didn't know which trumped the other ones. And Commissioner Joyce Foster first made a motion that the appeal be sustained, and there was no second because of this confusion. And then another commissioner made a motion that it be overruled, and there was no second to that. So they made no decision, and so by operation of law, it passes. 2 weeks later, the other project, 2108 Federal, comes up, and it's heard. This time the commissioners haven't thought about this, and they actually went out to the property, and they looked at the community plan, and they made a finding that this project at 3 stories and 33 feet violates the community plan. It's not in the character and scope of the neighborhood, and they turned him down. And we've got transcripts of this, which I've already provided you, and you can see the exact quotes by the commissioners. So now we have an inconsistency, and that's where the council member stepped in and he made the 245 motion, because you've got 2 doors down, they say you can't do it, and then this one here, the operation of law, because the commissioners who admittedly made a mistake on it, is before you now.
Okay. You have a question?
For the lawyer.
No, we're not. So why don't you just wait? Okay.
Now, I've submitted some materials to you on this, and I don't know if you had a chance to look at them or not, but I do have photographs here, the color photographs that I can.
But I do need you to conclude because we have another speaker.
Pardon me?
I need you to finish. We have another speaker.
Okay, well, if you look at the photographs, it's very clear. This project does not comply with the neighborhood character. And the other thing you should know, in the last 20 years, there's been numerous, and I've given you the data on there, zone changes. They've all limited the structures, 2 stories.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Our next speaker, Daniel Schneider.
Hi, my name is Daniel Schneider. I'm the developer of the property on Federal Avenue.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I'm the developer of the property.
Okay.
Actually, Mr. Donovan and man from Mr. Rosenthal's office made some statements that weren't quite true in terms of the character of the neighborhood. I brought photographs and some drawings. These boards are old photographs of about 25 different buildings within these few blocks right around the subject property. Properties here, and all of these other numbers are buildings that are 33 feet or 3 stories or higher than that.
Okay.
Right in this one little pocket of a neighborhood. Doesn't count going beyond Olympic Boulevard to where it's all manufacturing, or on the other side of Barrington, where it's all single families. But all these pictures are here. There's, excuse me. This 3-story, 33 feet building at the corner of Federal and Mississippi. Here's another one, slightly east.
So you're giving us many examples of what's around there that reflects the numbers you pointed out.
Yeah, and we can pass them around. You can look at them.
Okay, we can see from here. We understand your point. I want to make sure you reach all your points with your last 50 seconds.
The other point is we've taken a great deal of concern about the design of our building so that it does conform with what is coming in this neighborhood rather than the decrepit bungalows that exist right now. It was important to us when I bought one property with my partner, and then we became partners with the people with the property just north of us. The lots are narrow, they're 45 feet, they're substandard. So rather than build a building out to the limits there and then have some narrow alleys to get to the rear units, we wanted to have 2 buildings with 4 units and have a courtyard between them so there's open air and open space, so that people walking on the sidewalk can get a sense of openness as well as the people that live there, so that you're open to the street, rather than having a solid block wall with here's a double-wide building with a garage entrance right in the middle. The entire community is just shut out of this building. This happens to be the building that Mr. Donovan lives in. which is just south of our property. It's not good design, it's not good community planning, it's not good for the community. It restricts people. People are isolated in their houses.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Thank you. I'm going to ask the city attorney, in the details of this case, we're looking at this particular, what's in front of us. It's a 3-foot difference in what's being allowed. Am I hearing this correctly? And I just want to get your interpretation of what's in front of us and what legal standing do we have.
For the record, Sharon Cedar of Cardenas, City Attorney's Office. What's before you is a request for a parcel map. The Deputy Advisory Agency approved it. It was appealed by, we'll say for sake of ease, the neighbors. The Area Planning Commission did not act, and therefore it was deemed denied, and it was 245, and therefore the appeal is now before you.
Okay.
In order to deny the map, or grant it, either way, you have to make certain findings that are specified under the Subdivision Map Act. In this case, the only appropriate finding that I think you could make in the negative would possibly be finding number, it's A on your report on page 10. And to do that, you would need to point to evidence in the record that would support denying the map based upon applicable general and specific plans. In this case, the property is planned and zoned for Height District 1, which is a 45-foot height limit. And in this case, the application is, as we now know, for a 33-foot building. However, because this is not a vesting map, it's not required that plans be submitted with part of it. You're not looking at the building itself. You're only looking at the division of land and whether that complies with the MAP Act.
So, because we don't have a specific building, this is just for the tract map.
Right. This is to divide the property to allow the individual units to be sold.
Yeah.
And the current zone and code gives them that flexibility.
Right. Currently, it's already zoned R2. They could build an apartment building instead, and it could go up to 45 feet.
Okay. You have a question?
So maybe I'm going to ask what you're going to ask, which is, so to vote in the affirmative, we need to make certain factual findings. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we need to point to facts in the record and say these facts support the legal conclusion that we would reach. Right? That's what we have to do.
Right, Councilman. You would say the proposed map will not be consistent with applicable general and specific plans, and then you would need to specify that evidence in the record that would support that finding.
Ms. Zatevsky, are there such facts in the record?
No, I don't believe so, because the simple fact is the applicant can build a 45-foot high apartment building there right now. The council office's tool to control height in this area is a height district change. And if they're concerned about the development that's coming in the future, they can do an ICO pending the height district change, and that would limit the height. But to do it with a parcel map, it's just not, it's not the correct tool, and it would be very hard to litigate and win this type of reduction in height.
And in addition to that, are there any, because you're a neutral city staff member, are there any facts in the record that would support taking this action today?
No, the only facts that they pointed to were there's some language in the community plan about consistency with the scale of the neighborhood. But the problem is that, as he showed you with the photos, and I can show you on this radius map, there's buildings of various heights. That yes, there's one-story buildings, but the zoning permits up to 45 feet. So it doesn't, the neighboring property doesn't control your right as,
because that neighbor could have built higher, presumably it's lower than the zoning permits.
Exactly. And so I just find it a stretch to do within a parcel map. What they need, if they want to control the height, is a height district change.
Ms. Cedar of Cardenas, do you disagree with anything that Ms. Zatevsky said?
No.
Now, this would be tantamount to a taking because of our inability to look at the facts.
I feel it is because someone else, or even just this owner. So you could deny the parcel map, or you could condition it so it can only be 30 feet in height, the same as the neighboring property's building. But he can, just not record the final map, and he can build an apartment building that's 45 feet in height.
Councilor Weiser, any questions?
They're the same questions. And so to effectuate some of the neighbors' concerns and the council members for that area's concerns, can you repeat the options again, which you just mentioned them right now?
Oh, what I think they should look at is an ICO restricting the height on a temporary basis pending a height district change in the area. As they said, they're looking at it in the community plan update process, but it's got about 2 more years to go. So an ICO is a quicker mechanism for doing it, whereas it's not penalizing individual owners who've already put in basically a by right application, have gone through the process, paid their fees, and this just is a bit too arbitrary for me.
Okay, so I given the facts in front of us, I'm compelled to suggest that we deny the appeal and support the staff's recommendation and work with the council office to see how we can implement other planning tools that addresses his concerns and look at a solution that does not put the city in jeopardy or penalize the property owners. So that would be my recommendation.
I would ask if the council office for the area, they'd rather we continue this to kind of look at the different options that were presented, or if otherwise I'd support your recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Does the council office for the area have any, would you want to continue this item, or what is?
The appeal and work with the council office to create tools for them to control the heights.
No. I think the intent of the panel is clear.
Okay.
So thank you, and we'll work on some other avenues.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just for clarification, for the city attorney, for the purpose of the denial, does there need to be any findings for the denial?
For the record, Sharon Cedar of Cardenas again. They will deny the appeal and adopt the findings of the advisory agency as the findings of the council.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that'll be the action of this committee. Okay, anyone here for general comment? I believe that's what's left, correct?
Yes.
Anybody here for general comment? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.
I think there's a public comment card. Is there one?
Public comment?
Check to see. I think there is one. I don't know if there's still one.
Clyde Williams, are you still here?
He left.
Okay.
Okay,
he left.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.